Hello, everyone. I want to start by telling you a story. I know it's pretty late in the conference, and what I'm going to do is basically repeat and somewhat reinforce the message of this entire conference. So if you're somewhat tired in the day, well, when I was in school, in university to be exact, I had a really smart friend. He had his first PhD when he was 25. Not kidding, his first PhD. Then he got bored of being a mathematician and went on to be a doctor, but that's a separate story. As he was working on his first PhD, he took a course which was really difficult. One of those where you have like 200 people joining the course. By the end of the course, there are 30 people that are still in it, and of those, only maybe 10 will graduate. So they had an oral exam because you have so few students. It doesn't make sense to have a written exam. They had an oral exam. An oral exam. That's a Freudian slip. They had an oral exam, and he was last in row, right? And of course, his professor was kind of completely frustrated with all these stupid students that didn't manage to pass his perfectly nice and simple course. But he knew that my friend was really, really brilliant. So by the time he kind of walked into his office, like, Peter, you know what? You know this stuff, right? Yeah, I do, he replied. Honestly, he did know this stuff. Let's just say A and go have a cup of coffee. Right? So if you feel that you already know this stuff, maybe we should just go and have a cup of coffee instead. Spares me from talking and it spares you from listening. Or maybe not. So let's give it a shot. If you give me an hour your attention, I'll hopefully be able to make it worth your while a little bit at least. So my name is Henrik Stahl. As a matter of fact, it's Stahl. I'm from Sweden, but I live here in the US. And I head up strategy for Java at Oracle. Java, ME, and SE. Come on in, have a seat. Don't feel that you break the flow of my presentation. They're my colleagues, so I can give them a hard time. And about a year and a half back, 2.5 years back, we acquired Sun, and we went through all the IP that we acquired with Sun and tried to figure out what to do with it. And about a year and a half back, I seriously started looking into this general area of embedded and tried to figure out like what can we do with Java and with field and what is the overlap with Oracle Enterprise products. And it was a lot of confusion. I've been programming embedded devices myself. I started out my career writing small medical devices, software for small medical devices for Medtronics, long time ago. In some really crappy assembler. It was really painful. And since then, I kind of moved to this server side. I've been doing a bunch of enterprise stuff and then some JVM stuff. And I kind of come back to this, and I start seeing this kind of convergence. And it like over this year and a half, it's made me really excited. I think we're on the brink of something that can like change the way we live our lives. And that's what I want to talk to you about. Hopefully I can share a little bit of my enthusiasm. Or you go away from here and think I'm crazy. Either way, at least I entertained you for an hour. All right. So if I can make this clicker thingy work. It's too difficult. Like it needs Java to make it simpler to work. Hello. Come on, wake up. There we go. I think I managed to make something work at least. All right, so what I'm trying to convey here today, and what I think the entire purpose of this particular 2-day mini conference is, we actually stand on the brink of the next IT revolution. And I believe firmly that Java is the best technology for overcoming the challenges as we enter this revolution. And not only the technology, but also the Java ecosystem is actually almost the only realistic way we can address this fast enough, as fast as we would like, because there is a huge business opportunity here for all of us if we can make this successful. And furthermore, given that Java is in the hands of Oracle, and Oracle is strong both on the backend side, the traditional enterprise side in terms of providing infrastructure, as well as now with all the Java IP, partnering with Oracle is probably a very good way for you to kind of quickly expand into this new market, whether it's completely new to you or whether you exist and just want to grow your market. And I'm going to try to convince you that this is true. All right. So let me start with something here before I kind of rattle off. This is my latest little toy. It's a little chip running Java, and I have a great make money fast scheme. I think that any one of you who is interested in doing a startup can make $1 million clean in a year. And if you want to know more about it, come up and talk to me later, because that will not be covered in my talk. All right, so it's very clear that like internet at its introduction, I've actually been part of this from the very start. I was very young, fresh out of school, a few years before the internet revolution really took shape and form. So I've been using it at my university like many of you did. But when it took off was like when we got into the industry. Now this is a great thing to do for a relatively young student because you're given a lot of responsibility very quickly, and it enables you to work on challenges by your own that you would not otherwise have been able to work on. So clearly this has formed my generation. After internet came mobile, which probably has had an even more profound impact on our daily lives. So I don't know if you ride a subway to work, which you may do if you live in San Francisco, maybe not so much if you're in another place in the US. Everyone's just sitting and fiddling with their phones. Okay, it's so natural. Like I gave my mother an iPad, and she's like, "What the hell should I use this for?" Well, you can talk to your kids when they're on the other side of Atlantic. She thinks it's the most brilliant thing under the earth, and of course, she's willing to pay Apple $400, $500, $600 to make that happen. All right. When these revolutions in the industry happened, it shook the entire industry, not only the IT industry, actually, as a matter of fact, the entire kind of business to its core. Everyone had to adapt and try to figure out how to fit into this new business. Now, these are truisms. Everyone knows that this is reality. What I contend is that the changes that we are now facing will be faster than the two prior revolutions, and they will also be more profound. Okay? Maybe more hidden, maybe not quite as visible, but it will have a very, very real impact on our lives. So let's go to some of those kind of high-level analyst things that they throw around. There'll be 50 billion devices by the end of 2020. Someone says 100 billion. I don't remember if it was 2020 or 2025. It doesn't really matter. The reality is there will be a huge number of these devices. We already have them around us, right? But there will be a huge number of them. All of them will be connected. That's the difference. They all be connected, which means they will form part of one gigantic network, right? They will generate completely massive amounts of data. Not each and every one of them, but in total, ridiculous amounts of data. And if you look at the amount of traffic you're talking about over a network, if you're an operator, you're probably freaked out, because by far the majority of the internet traffic that will be generated will be these devices talking to some kind of data center, or cloud if you prefer that. So all good, great vision, but there are some real challenges here. Just a single one, like how do we manage all these devices? How do we manage them? Just that one little question, and you immediately understand the complexity that we face. All right. So my favorite place is home. I'm kind of boring. I don't mind going out to a bar with a few friends, but I really like to be at home and kind of play with my kids and kind of pet my cat and kind of enjoy life. I play my guitar, whatever I do when I'm home. I don't particularly like the word smart home, to be honest. I don't really know whether I'm a smart person or not, but I don't really I don't like the idea of my home being very smart. I prefer for the home to be pretty dumb and do exactly what I tell it to. That's kind of how my wife likes me. So what would I like my home to actually do for me? There are some things I would like my home to be able to do for me. I want it to make my life comfortable. I want it to make things easy for me. I think it should be natural. I don't want to kind of run around and do things unnecessarily if I can avoid it. I want my home to help me save money. Okay? I don't want unnecessary expenses. I want to be able to preserve the environment so that I can go to sleep at night and feel good about myself. And I want my home to keep me safe. My home is my castle. Now in Sweden you can't shoot people that enter your home. But even so, like the feeling of security when you kind of lock your door at night. Well, this is my home, it's my castle. I want it to keep me safe. And I want my home to be safe when I'm not there. So I want all these things. And all of them can be built with technology, or technology can improve all these things for us, as clearly visible on this slide. It's just not a new idea. Now, the real trick is what is needed in order to make this come true. Well, at the very end of it, and if you're an engineer like myself, what we really need is a network of devices that do different things. Now, these devices will help you monitor your home in different ways. They will help you control your home. Some of them will be built in, right? Some of them already exist, but they will be enhanced and more intelligent. Some will be integrated in appliances that you buy, whether it's your refrigerator or a toaster or like a lamp switch. All of them will have to interoperate. All of them will have to have a long lifetime. Like, it may be okay to toss out your cell phone after 2 years. At least it made Apple the richest company in the world, right? But it doesn't work if you have something which is mounted in your home somewhere to replace it every 2 years. You don't want to do that. You must be able to control and monitor the data flow. Like, where does this data go? Who can actually touch all these devices? Who can make something happen to them? Well, you need to be able to delegate some of this to trusted suppliers. If you have a device that monitors your grandmother's heart rate, it's great if you can have that and like have someone monitor it at a distance, so you know in advance that something scary is going to happen. Have the ambulance there before she has a heart attack. Well, my father died in a heart attack. I wish he had had one of these. I bet that they would have been able to detect it and have an ambulance there before. Okay, but you want to be able to control that. You don't want it to go to a journalist or your neighbor, right? So control, delegation of control, security, all these things. All of this can be solved today. You can, as a matter of fact, you can easily build a home that does this. I know, like I read a few years ago that Bill Gates had his home fully automated. If you're rich, you can do it. But the reality is very hard. It's really hard, right? So the real opportunity here is if we can make hard easy. All right. So what is it that makes it this hard? What does that make it hard? I'll take just one example, interoperability. How many of you were kind of tinkering with PCs in the early 90s? Well, I'm sure did, right? Sticking these expansion cards in the PC. In order to actually make them work, you kind of stuck them in and you turned on the PC and everything was black and it beeped, right? You had to kind of move these little jumpers around and set the proper, interrupt and I/O ports and whatever, like memory addresses. Pain in the ass. Eventually they became a lot easier. Now you go buy something from Dell and it just works, or a little MacBook or whatever. They just work, right? So it's easier. It's not perfect, but it's a lot easier. But there's actually one problem that we still haven't been able to solve. I don't know about you, but every time I move, I have to unplug all my kind of stereo, TV, DVD things, and then trying to plug them together and actually make them work together. It's a simple problem on the surface, but it takes forever. And I swear, and I cut myself on sharp corners. And my wife is very careful to not be in the house the day when I try to do this because it really ticks me off. So interoperability, we have to solve interoperability. You can imagine trying to connect an entire home. It will not be easy. We have to make it easy. All right, what other things make this difficult? Devices will need to have a long lifetime. As I said, we don't want to go in and replace them. I have to know that something I install today will still work 15 years from now. I may need to upgrade it in place because maybe something changed. Maybe the FCC changed some radio regulation. I have to change the kind of bandwidth which it works, right? So if it's a radical change, sure, I have to rip it out and replace it because the antenna won't work. But if it's simple change, a software upgrade will do the trick. Okay. Many of these things may run off a battery. I don't want to have to go replace that battery all the time. It's annoying enough to have to replace the battery in your fire alarm, which is only once a year or so. Okay, so they have to be able to run on really low powers that they can run for a long time. They're frequently hard to service, especially if they're kind of built into your wall. Of course, you can replace a kind of a lightning switch, but it takes a time. You have to kind of go find your toolbox and kind of bring out your screwdriver and turn off the electricity so you don't get a shock. It's hard. It's not like a cell phone. So they're actually very different. And of course, then we have all the privacy concerns, data security. I don't want my neighbor to turn on or off my air conditioning. Maybe kind of he's pissed because I felled that tree the other year and now he's kind of playing havoc with my electricity bill, right? And safety. Right? Some of these things are dangerous. Right? So you can actually remotely program a pacemaker. Okay, I absolutely don't want my neighbor to be able to do that. Okay, so this is hard. It's harder than most other types of development that we've done. Now, standardization is in progress, and everyone says, well, if only we have standards, it will solve everything. Well, the reality is standards will actually get us a long way. It will help us a lot. And there are a number of good initiatives across the world. Of course, one of the issues is there are a number of them. So then you get back to this problem that the good thing about standards is that everyone has their own. Now, some of the kind of early adopters in terms of pushing standards are the telco companies, because they've seen this coming for a long time. They've seen the kind of issue with interoperability and traffic patterns and so on and so forth. And they know that they need years to prepare. So they've been out there for a long time. Of course, they've been focusing mainly on the issues that concern them. Software companies have entered the playing field. In many of these standards, you have IT companies participate because we're defining the software stacks. And of course, you have hardware companies because they have to help define things like how will the radio communication happen. Right? It's a very, very important question. How are we going? What components do we need for security? Okay. So standardization, great. It will happen. It will happen in due time. Like, it's making progress. Now, one of the challenges here is that if we think that standards will solve everything, we're very naive. I don't think many people have that perception. Let me take one example, TCP/IP. Okay, TCP/IP is a great standard. It works really, really well out there. But you wouldn't say that just because someone wrote the document, you have the first RFC in the IETF, that we're done. Right? The really, really hard work is implementing it. And you wouldn't just pick up the document and start writing in the implementation from scratch. Making a good TCP/IP stack is an enormous amount of work. Okay, so standards will get you part of the way. One of the main issues that we have is also the kind of the software lifecycle and the ability to rapidly kind of customize things. I would claim that this problem is largely solved on the enterprise backend. Largely solved. I mean, we can always tweak things and so on and so forth. But it's fairly easy to replace a component from a supplier with a component from another supplier. Or to go out in the market and hire a developer. You can train and fairly quickly get up to speed on what you're doing and have him or her be productive. And on the server side, this was solved about 15 years ago. Okay. All right. So this quote, I can't name the person, unfortunately. I think it's a brilliant quote. Even it actually sums up the issue rather well. Today, if you look at a typical embedded device, so I know some of you would argue that we've gone beyond this, but the 90 percentile embedded device, it's a single vendor that puts it together, builds it, designs and puts together hardware, some components from various suppliers, writes the software on it, puts it in a nice little box and goes sells it to the market. Once it's out there, it's not connected, it'll just run, it's controlled. So it's a one-off solution. And it works quite well in terms of providing a function. It's a coffee machine, it provides a good function. So that's great when that sums up your requirement. But if you really think about it, doesn't this remind you of something? Okay, computers were one-off things a long time ago. All right, so how can Java help this? Now, I assume that many of you in here are familiar with the benefits of Java. So is there anyone that will kind of dare just shout out and name one? No? Reduce time to market. That's an excellent business benefit. And it's because Java is very productive to work in. Another one is portability. Okay, you can take Java code and move it from one device to another. So write once, run everywhere, or write once, test everywhere, or whatever you want to call it. But if you overlay kind of this slide of buzzwords that we've been well aware of for the last 10 years with the previous slide that I had with the challenges, it's actually, you don't have to look very hard to see that it's a good fit for addressing these challenges. It has the right characteristics. It allows you to target, if you write an application once and target it for most, if not all, existing devices, as well as for unknown devices that will be here in the future. It comes with a lot of ready-to-use components. The core libraries are extremely rich, right? So your developers don't have to start from scratch. They can reuse stuff that someone else already made. And there's a vast ecosystem of ISVs, open source projects, and developers that you can allow you to reuse. And like, if you have a need for a long support lifecycle for Java, well, there are a number of strong vendors in this place that will still be here 15 years from now, including Oracle. So we're a huge company. Our entire business, well, not entire, but 2/3 of our software business is based on Java, and it uses Java, which is a guarantee in and of itself that we're going to continue to enhance Java and make sure it still exists 20 years from now. So betting on Java is a safe bet. Okay. All right. So Java is good at solving these challenges. Now, another observation I'd like to make is that Java is the only standards-based platform that actually provides an end-to-end implementation. Some other vendors or technologies can solve part of this, but Java can really do everything. We have the development story. You can actually use the same development tools regardless of whether you're targeting this little toy here, right? Or whether you're targeting an application running on a cloud server or in your data center, and everything in between. Java provides a common management layer. It provides security components. So everything you need in terms of security, like cryptography or kind of sending things securely over wire, authentication, whatever it is, right? Java provides it. And of course, interoperability. So leveraging something like Java is almost a no-brainer. It enables you to focus on the value that you provide. It enables you to focus on the data. Because the value of the Internet of Things, the value of M2M to the actual people that are going to be paying for it is the data. So we here who are part of building this will all make a lot of money out of providing it, providing infrastructure, providing devices, and so on and so forth, providing services. But the value is in the data. All right. So what is Java? This is kind of one of those moments where you may say, hey, Henrik, let's just go take a cup of coffee because I already know this stuff. And that's fine. But I'm still going to bore you with it. Java is fairly complete. Right? It provides a virtual machine which gives you an abstraction layer, can run the same program on any type of device. Has a set of base libraries that enables you to do normal things, I/O, right? Manipulate data in various ways. You have integration libraries that allows you to very easily make your application interact with existing systems. Right? They don't have to be written in Java, they can be. Right? Because Java pretty much, there's an implementation of every foreseeable protocol you can ever think about is implemented in Java. You have UI, and of course you have development tools. If you break open this box, you'll find lots of like acronyms and buzzwords and blah, blah. This is just an example, by the way. Lots of components. All of them are tried and tested in the field. People have been using them for years and years and years. So you can be fairly certain that the quality is good. The components provide the function that they're supposed to provide. There is a good process in place for like how this is going to evolve over time, and how additional components going to be added to the box. And almost all of these are standardized, which means that if you have a need to create your own standard for your particular industry, right, you don't have to start from scratch. You can leverage, you guys pick a version of Java and say, I'm going to standardize on this. That's what Blu-ray players did. Every Blu-ray player in the world uses a particular Java standard, happens to be CDC 1.1. No matter what it means, the point is that the company that wrote that provided Rio, the movie Rio, little birds that fly around in the Brazilian jungle. It's a great movie. My kids love it. They have some really cool applications on their Blu-ray disc. And these applications are written in Java, and it doesn't matter whose Blu-ray player they stick that little disc in. It will work, right? And it's smart enough that that little disk contains an application that will actually go out on your home network, if you allow it, and locate your printer. So from this little application running on the disk, you can print postcards and coloring pages for your kids. That's a great example of interoperability. And because they built Java into the standard, they enabled this. All right. So to summarize the benefit of Java, it's a very productive development environment. We have historically done like studies on this, sponsored by us or by IBM or by Sun, saying that working in Java is give or take twice as effective as working in a native language. And that factors in the entire software lifecycle. So developing the first application, testing, quality, porting, and maintaining it over many years. My belief is that for embedded, the value, relatively speaking, is probably more. But we don't yet have any analyst studies to prove that. But I think it's more. It's very, very productive. It runs pretty much anywhere. So other solutions are available. You can go and run off with Android. But Android will never, ever, ever fit on this little thing. Never. It runs Java. We can run Java on 8 kilobytes of RAM. It's a bit extreme, but it works. Of course, it doesn't have all the same libraries that you have on the bigger device, but it's the same language and the same tools. There's a huge ecosystem of developers. We frequently use the word 9 million. I actually think it's like 9.5. And there was someone I talked to who said, well, we have like 20,000 developers in our ecosystem for our products. And we're quite happy about that because it's a lot of people. And they actually define my ability to grow. If I don't have these 20,000, I can't grow. Good for you, I said. I think that's awesome. But I really want I want you to be able to grow faster. Right? So let me introduce you to my friend Bruno. Bruno runs the Java user group in São Paulo in Brazil. He has 45,000 members in one city, one Brazil. Okay, so if we enable Java developers to write software with these embedded systems, for those of you who produce these devices, like you've just moved the kind of your ability to grow 2 orders of magnitude. And believe me, the Java developers I interact with here, they really want to do this. They think it's super cool. Okay? And they really want to do it. So this is real. You can go talk to people. I bet you can recruit 10 people in this conference and have them like talk to you seriously about writing Java software for embedded devices. All right. And if you don't like Oracle, don't understand why anyone would not like Oracle, well, there are a bunch of suppliers of Java. You don't have to get it from us. So yes, we're the steward of the standards. But there are a bunch of different companies that do this. You can get it from someone else. So it's easy to dual source. So no lock-in. All right. But, you say, I have all this legacy native code. I can't replace it overnight. So you're asking me to jump on a new bandwagon. It will eat a little bit more memory. I have to re-educate all my developers. They're great developers. They're super efficient. Yeah, I know they're native, but like I've had them for a long time, and they do a good job. I need to be able to reuse my existing investment. So how do I do that? Well, it's actually very simple. Java has great interoperability with native. It's very simple to kind of leverage existing native code from Java. So today you write a little wrapper, and then you make direct calls to your native code. It's simple. In the future, it'll be completely transparent. We're aiming to provide that. And this is something that we've been using on the server side for 15, 20 years. Right? So none of this is new. It's a very well-known problem to solve. Now, of course, the full benefit of Java, you will not realize that until you are all Java. Because that's when you can stop thinking about porting, for instance. Okay? So you'll get some benefit in terms of development efficiency, in terms of maintenance, and so on and so forth. And when you move to all Java for a particular device or application, you will see a radically improved kind of economy of scale for that application. All right, so great. I've told you the benefits of Java. Now, what can I sell you? Because I want to make you buy my stuff here. Well, to start with, we have Java for pretty much everything. And if we grossly oversimplify everything, you can kind of classify embedded Java in small, medium, and large. Right? Small, this is small, right? The LiveScribe pen runs Java. That is small. Cortex-M microcontroller is small. Like there, you would run something called Java ME Micro Edition. Don't confuse ME with mobile. It has nothing to do with mobile. It just means small. We have a business with an old name in the kind of medium business. This is what you use for like the Kindle and for Blu-ray players and so on and so forth, which has a really weird product name. I think I won't even try to pronounce it here today, OJEC. And then we have Java SE, which is like the big sibling of Java. Now, moving forward, SE is going to shrink in size because of modularity and ability to adapt what components you deploy. And ME is going to grow up a little bit. And so the medium will kind of be squeezed, and small and large will be the two deployments that will be there. There's an additional component which is kind of interesting, which is Java Card. So Java Card has been in the market for about 15 years. And it runs in almost all SIM cards in all the phones in Europe and in the Americas, or at least North America, as well as in many payment cards, so MasterCard, Visa, e-passports and things like that. So it's a little smart card chip, and most of those small smart card chips, they run Java Card. It's a secure operating system. So why do I even bring Java Card up? Well, it is a generic runtime, although it's very small and even more restricted than Micro Edition. The nice thing about Java Card is, because it's so small, it's certified according to all the relevant security standards. So FIPS 140 or Common Criteria or EAL or whatever, you pick your poison. So Java Card, for the applications where you need a really strong security layer that is tamper-proof, right, which is certified according to standards, that you can get your products approved by the banking industry or the telecommunications industry or standards bodies, or for healthcare by the, what's it called in the US, FDA. Okay, I used to do FDA certifications 15 years ago. It's really royal pain. Java Card is a building block that will enable you to overcome any of these things and reduce your cost for building a highly secure solution. All right. So Java already exists. It already exists for all these devices. So what is new? Well, I'm going to focus today here on the slightly larger devices. And my argument is that in order to make it really valuable, it's not enough just to have Java there. We need to get closer to solving your business problem, right? And the business problem is to make these devices more intelligent. If you really think about what you need to do with these devices, well, to start with, you cannot always rely on them being connected to a backend. Okay, it depends a little bit on what type of device it is, but say it's your I don't know, your air conditioning unit in home. No, like if say it drops the connection with the backend, well, probably you'll have some kind of fail-safe mechanism so that it just keeps running on its current setting, so it doesn't turn off the heat, and your poor little dog kind of dies in the sweltering heat of a Kansas summer, or runs amok and like freezes down your house. Right? That would be pretty bad. So it needs to be able to have some sort of intelligence even when your backend is not connected. And furthermore, one of the limitations of this exploding Internet of Things is network bandwidth. Right? So you'll have a gazillion of these devices, and there's no way the communications networks can grow that fast. So radio networking, operator networks, or 3G, 4G, all of them are great. But the reality is, we have a lot of innovation to do before we have all this kind of bandwidth we need within the spectrum we have. It's a finite resource to actually be able to do everything we want at all times. It may never happen. So what you really need to do is to make your device smarter. You need to be able to enable your device to make decisions based on, well, business rules or your own personal preferences. I want to create the policy for my device. All right. So as one of the things that we strongly believe is necessary is for the slightly larger devices that kind of are the gateways that control a network. You know, it might be in your home or in an industry building or whatever, right? In a car. You're probably going to have one or maybe a few of these concentrators, gateways, routers, whatever you want to call them. That kind of are the hubs of the wheel that manage things locally. And they are also there in order to help you control bandwidth. So as a foundation for our strategy of products that will help be building blocks for you going into embedded, we released 2 new products last week. One which I'm not going to talk about in this particular session. That's the kind of thing that will make you $100 million in a year, which is Java ME Embedded. The other one is Java Embedded Suite. So this is basically, it's basically a web server, a Java EE application server, which has been reduced to run on an embedded device. Okay. If you want it, it's almost like a data center in a box, but it's really, really small data center. So the initial release, it contains a Java runtime, great. It also contains a small version of a Java EE server, not full feature, because you don't need all the integration capabilities on an edge device, but it gives you the capability to do web pages, to do some messaging. It has web services support for interoperability and so on and so forth. You can easily imagine one of these running in your home, and you deploy a web application to it, and then that web application controls your Lightning, and then it has a web page. So from your iPad, you just connect over the web to your gateway, and you control your Lightning from the web application on your iPad. Very simple. It also have a built-in persistence layer, which is necessary in order to kind of store state for your applications, in addition to cache data in case the connection to the backend is down for the time being. So from a strategic perspective, this is almost like Exalogic, if you will, or Exadata. It's all the functionality you would ever need in a box. But in this case, it's just a middleware stack. You build a device, you put this thing on the device, and then you write your business logic. Now, what developers do you need to build an application for this? Well, it's exactly the same developers that you would use to build a web application. And no offense to our developers here, but they're like a dime for a dozen. Right? They're very easy to get hold of, and which means you don't need a specialized skill set. All right, almost done. You really want that $1 million. So what does Java Embedded Suite provide? Well, again, everything except the Java implementation itself is Java. So it actually runs on all devices. It has a very, very small footprint, for an application server stack. So the initial release is a few tens of megabytes. And we're going to reduce that footprint while retaining the functionality to maybe 20 megabytes. It's remotely manageable because you can deploy multiple applications on it. So you can technically be multi-tenant. So it's the base foundation for an application running on one of these gateways. Now we have an aggressive roadmap for adding more features to this and enhancing the existing features. And of course, as I said, making it even smaller. This is available today. I read a great blog from a journalist on a technology newspaper that kind of read about their announcement and had a little plug computer in his home and just decided to give it a spin. So he downloaded it, he put it on his device, and he put an application on, like trivial Hello World application. It took him 4 minutes, including the download time. 4 minutes. Pretty impressive. He was happy. I was happy because he was happy. All right, so say you want a user interface, graphics. Well, in some cases, you maybe use your smartphone or your tablet, and then you're good because you can use web or an app on that thing. That's fine. In some cases, you will need graphics. Maybe it's a wall-mounted screen for something. It's a touch screen built into, I don't know, your printer or your AC control unit or a little medical device or something. You actually want this to be fairly advanced. Maybe the screen is an appliance of some sort. It would be kind of nice to be able to play an instructional video on the screen itself. So how do I, where do I feed in kind of detergent in this washing machine? Play the instructional video, right? You may want to be able to access a web page, right? Maybe this little thing, it would be great if you could kind of connect to my support database. So you have this little error reported from the machine, and that error, when you created the machine, you don't actually know exactly what can cause this. So maybe you have something in the manual. Good, that's a good start. But it's even better if you can have a live support database based on kind of support bug reports from your actual customers, your consumers in the field. So you also want to have web support from this little thing. So the requirements on these user interface, you want touch, right? All the requirements are very much the same as you would have on a modern tablet or a phone or something like that. Now we have this Java FX technology, which in its current incarnation has been in the market for about a year. And it's really a next generation graphics framework which fully leverages the hardware graphics capabilities in modern platforms. So if you go buy a chip from Freescale or Qualcomm or whoever, right, it leverages the full extent of hardware. So you can get great performance and a really, really good user experience even on a very small device. Developers love it. It's easy to build applications. It's easy to maintain. And you can keep the design separate from the code. So it's really like all these things that you would have wanted from a framework does exist in Java FX. Released an early access for Java on ARM Sunday last week. And if you need a production version today, contact us. We can build one for you and support it until we have the standard product out on the market sometime next year. Number of really great demos of this technology down on the showroom floor. Go try it out. It's pretty impressive. All right. So now I'm going into the kind of Oracle hat, Oracle mode. Let's say you want to build an end-to-end application. It's not just about writing the software for the little thingy device, right? You actually want to build the end-to-end application. Well, you're going to need some sort of infrastructure, right? Either you roll your own or you go and host somewhere else, Amazon, Oracle Cloud, wherever you want. You probably need some sort of data store. It's a database or a NoSQL database, right? You need to be able to analyze and visualize and so on and so forth this data. You're going to need middleware components to manage the business transactions, capture the events that are coming in, make decisions on who should be able to be allowed to do what. Okay? And on the device itself, of course, you need to be able to collect and manage the data and have a runtime that you can deploy things to. So all these things taken together are building blocks to create an Internet of Things application. So it looks complicated. Well, the good news is you can get it all from one vendor if you want to. So Oracle does provide all the building blocks for this. And it's not that difficult. Even better news is that if you happen not to like Oracle, well, you can very easily replace a layer here with a building block from someone else. As long as you pick the base technology, which provides reuse, you can mix and match, or you can get everything from a single vendor. It's up to you, right? On the back end, well, of course, the Internet of Things marries extremely well with the entire movement to the cloud. Because one of the challenges you're facing is, how do I scale my backend when I sell a gazillion devices? Oh, let Amazon solve that problem for you. Or, Oracle Cloud solve that problem for you. There's no one from corporate here, so I can't say Amazon. All right, so to summarize, going back to kind of where I started, right? I truly believe that we stand on the brink of the next IT revolution. I really believe this. And the simplicity of the things is what's going to change it. It's going to be really, really simple. Connectivity is a prerequisite. It's there. So what we need in order to make this happen is simplicity. To get simplicity, I firmly believe that Java is the best technology for overcoming all the challenges in this market in terms of hardware fragmentation, in terms of operating system fragmentation, in terms of being able to reuse your developers. Okay? As this grows, right, one limiting factor will be the ability to buy off-the-shelf components, because you don't want to spend time on that. You want to build solutions and services that you can sell to your customers. And I believe that the Java ecosystem is the only realistic way to address this growth fast enough. And I'd like to reiterate that 45,000 number of Java use group members only in São Paulo in Brazil, only in one city. The number of developers that code Java is larger than the number of people in Sweden, which is the country I come from. It's a massive number. And from a business perspective, well, Oracle has a number of these bits and pieces. We have a partner ecosystem. Many of you in here are part of our ecosystem. If you partner with us, it will enable you to more quickly expand your business into this new market. So go take a look at Java. Come talk to us. We want to make you successful. By making you successful, we will be successful. And we will together change the market. Okay? I want to see this happen because I want that smart home. And I want to make $1 million. Thank you very much.